Seeing Mr. Flower still, that he just joined. Mr. Baumgart. And Mr. Shaughnessy, are you back? I see Mr. Shaughnessy's on, but I don't know if he's back at his computer. We'll wait one more minute.
Okay.
Oh, there he is. There's Mr. Shaughnessy, and I see Mr. Flower. Okay. So I believe we have all the board members present. So we will begin. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Linton, president of the Colorado Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. Today's date is November 16th, 2021, and the time is 11:01 a.m. These proceedings are being recorded as part of the standard process of rulemaking by the board. I've determined that a quorum of the board is present, so it is possible to proceed. At this time, I'd like to call for a motion to open the hearing to consider proposed rule revisions related to 1 CCR 205-2 regarding power sports vehicles. The board will consider proposed revisions to an existing rule. The board will specifically consider proposed revisions to the following rule. Power sports vehicle regulation number 44-20-417 F1 or I. Is there a motion to open the rulemaking hearing?
This is Mr. Shaughnessy. I move to open the hearing.
Thank you. A motion from Mr. Shaughnessy. Do we have a second?
It's Ms. Behrens. I'll second the motion.
And a second from Ms. Behrens. All in favor, Ms. Baumgart?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Chandler?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Flower?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. The motion to open the rulemaking hearing passes. The formal rulemaking hearing is now open. The hearing will proceed according to the provisions of the Colorado Administrative Procedures Act, specifically Section 244103 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, and according to other relevant provisions of law, regulation, and policy. Today's rulemaking hearing received official public notice on October 25th, 2021, by means of publication in Volume 44, Number 20 of the Colorado Register. Public notice for rules found in 1 CCR 205-2 related to power sports vehicles came under tracking number 2021-00642. Supplemental public notice took place through publication on the website of the Department of Regulatory Agencies and the Auto Industry Division of the Department of Revenue. Today's rulemaking hearing offers any interested person the opportunity to make oral comments to the board on one or more of the rules under review, or to provide additional documents for the board's consideration, or both. The hearing is quasi-legislative in nature, not adversarial. All viewpoints are welcome. Anyone can speak and share information and opinions regarding the rules under review. Anyone who wants to make comments to the board and/or to provide additional documents to the board, please place your name in the chat box and/or raise your hand. Right before I open the public comment phase, I'll look over the chat box to determine if there is anyone who would like to make a comment. All speakers are urged to make their points as succinctly as possible. The board has before it the record for board review. Included in the record are the following. First, the current text of the power sports vehicle related rule the board will consider in the rulemaking hearing, along with the red line text version and the clean text version of that rule. Second, materials related to the stakeholders meeting held on September 23rd, 2021. Third, filing and notice materials related to the Secretary of State's office tracking number 2021-00642. Fourth, filing and notice materials related to the Department of Regulatory Agencies filing under 1 CCR 205-2 power sports vehicles. Fifth, notice of hearing with proposed draft rules to interested parties. And sixth, comments from interested parties and the public received after the publication of the official notice of hearing and through November 10th, 2021. Ms. Beth Spellerberg, the subject matter expert and rules administrator for the Auto Industry Division, will introduce the record in general and then provide the Auto Industry Division's position on the rule. The board will then entertain public comments on the rule. Board members may ask the division and any public commenter as many relevant questions as the board may have regarding any particular rule. After the public comments have concluded, Ms. Spellerberg will be permitted to comment further as needed on the rule. The board will close the public comment phase of the rulemaking hearing after all public comments and potential additional comments from the division have been made on the rule the board has before it for consideration today. Once the public comment phase is ended, the board will enter into the deliberative phase, and it will not entertain any further comments from the division or from the public. During the deliberative phase, the board will engage in discussions and deliberate as long as necessary upon the written record for board review, together with any written materials made part of the comprehensive record subsequent to November 10th, 2021, and including any written submissions in the course of the board's hearing today. The board's deliberations will also include the oral comments of the division and the public made during the public comment phase. The board will deliberate on the rule brought before the board in the hearing today. The board will make some decision today. For the rule, the board has options, including but not limited to the following. It may adopt the proposed rule as presented by the division. It may adopt the proposed rule as presented by the division, but with modifications made by the board. It may table the rule for consideration later in the meeting. It may continue its deliberations on the rule until a later date that it announces, or it may reject the proposed rule as presented by the division. If the rule presented by the division is an entirely new rule, then that new rule would not come into existence. If the rule presented by the division is a revised rule or a proposed deletion of a rule, then the rule in its current form continues in existence. After an action has been taken on the rule, the board will close consideration of that rule. The public comment phase of the hearing will begin now. Beth Spellerberg, who is the legal assistant and rules administrator for the Auto Industry Division and the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, will make the division's presentation of the record to the board. Ms. Spellerberg, you have the floor at this time. Please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome, members of the board, welcome, members of the public, and welcome, fellow State of Colorado employees. As John mentioned, or as the president mentions, my name is Beth Spellerberg. I'm the legal assistant rules administrator for the Auto Industry Division. This rulemaking hearing is for Rule Group 1 on the board's 2021 regulatory agenda. We were tasked with reviewing the existing regulations for the pre-licensing education program for both motor vehicles and power sports vehicles. Each board member has a packet contained in the rulemaking folder in their board packet titled Record for Board Review. These are the rulemaking documents on record that I'm going to summarize for your review and consideration. The stakeholders met on September 23rd, 2021 to review all the rules regarding the pre-licensing education program for both motor vehicles and power sports vehicles. The consensus of the stakeholder group was that a change be made to Power Sports Regulation 4420-417-7F1 to add the addition of Title 33 to the pre-licensing education program. The need to add Title 33 in the pre-licensing education program. Under sections 33-14-102 and 33-14.5-102 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, dealers of snowmobiles and off-highway vehicles shall require the purchaser to complete a registration application and pay the registration fee with the Colorado Parks and Wildlife before the vehicle leaves the dealer premises so that they may be operated on public lands. With few exceptions, the title paperwork submitted to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife for power sports, such as snowmobiles and off-highway vehicles, is the same as the title paperwork that would be submitted to the county clerks and records office for motor vehicles. To date, the registrations of snowmobiles and off-highway vehicles have provided over $150 million for creating opportunities for the use of the vehicles, protection and maintenance of the environment, and education concerning responsible use. These two registration programs are the only means through the state of funding these critical functions. The division's goal is to propose simple, effective, and enforceable rules that do not adversely affect the industry's ability to be successful, but to keep the paramount issue of consumer protection at the forefront. The division supports the proposed revision and finds that the modification does not impact the overall concept of what the division and stakeholders agreed to in principle.
Thank you, Ms. Spillerberg. The division has finished its presentation of the record, and it is time to hear comments from the public. If anyone in the audience has not indicated in the chat they would like to make a comment, please do so now. At this point, I do not see anyone who has expressed they'd like to make any comment. Okay. One second. Okay. Ms. Spillerberg, does the division have any further comments it wants to make at this time with regard to the rule being considered today?
Not at all, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Spillerberg. We've reached the conclusion of the public comment phase of the rulemaking hearing. I'd like to thank everyone who has participated in the process today and everyone who has otherwise participated in the rulemaking process to date for all of their input and hard work. At this time, I'd like to call for a motion to close the public comment phase of the hearing to consider proposed rule revision to 1 CCR 205-2, Regulation 44-20-417-7F, Roman numeral I, regarding power sports vehicles. Is there a motion to close the public comment phase of the rulemaking hearing?
I propose we close the public comment section of this rulemaking proposal.
Thank you. A motion from Ms. Chandler. Do we have a second?
Ms. Behrens, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. And a second from Ms. Behrens. All in favor, Ms. Bumgart?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Flower?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. The motion to close the public comment phase of the rulemaking hearing passes. The public comment phase of the rulemaking hearing is now closed. No further comments from the public or the division will be allowed without explicit recognition by the president. The board will now begin the deliberation phase of the rulemaking hearing. The deliberation phase is open to the public, but only board members and the Attorney General representative are permitted to participate without being asked a question by a board member or without being specifically recognized by the chairperson in order to add a clarifying or explanatory comment to assist the board in reaching the best possible determination. Today's hearing includes only one power sports vehicle related rule. Therefore, it will be the only rule discussed. At the conclusion of that discussion, the board will vote on the rule. Board members will have in front of them a packet for the rule at issue. Included in each packet will be A, the current version of the rule, B, the red line version showing the changes proposed for the rule, and C, the clean version showing how the rule would look if the proposed changes were all adopted. The deliberation phase is now open. Is there any discussion or comments, thoughts on the proposed rule?
Just a question. So prior to this proposed rule change, if someone purchased a snowmobile, they then paid the fee once they licensed it through the county, and now they have to prepay or pay at the time of sale those fees. That's really the only rule change here is at what point do they pay the fee to license the vehicle? Is that correct? I mean, that's what I kind of understood, and so I was just kind of surprised that that hadn't been done before.
Maybe, I don't know if Ms. Spillerberg wants to provide more clarity. I believe it's just the education requirement for salespeople. Is that correct?
Yes, Mrs. Chandler, these statutes have been in place for a while. We're just trying to get, or the stakeholders want to get the regulation up to par with what's already in place. So this just hasn't been updated for quite some time, and it was brought to our attention that it really needed to be for the pre-licensing education program, that everyone is aware of this.
I see. Yeah, so it's more just that the dealer is aware that they need to tell it's part of that education process.
It is part of the education process. It's been on the books for a while. It's just hasn't been in the regulation for a while.
Got it. Okay, thank you for the clarity. I couldn't figure out why it was not included, but I understand now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other thoughts, questions, comments on the board?
Nope.
Okay. Hearing none, then I'd like to call for a motion for final adoption of Regulation 44-20-417 7F Roman numeral I. Is there a motion?
Yeah, this is Mr. Shaughnessy. I would move that we adopt the modification to Regulation 44-20-417, parentheses 7, parentheses F, parentheses Roman numeral I, by adding Title 33 to the education curriculum.
Thank you, Mr. Shaughnessy. Do we have a second?
This is Carrie Baumgart. I will second.
Thank you, Ms. Baumgart. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, Ms. Behrens?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Chandler?
Yes.
Thank you, and Mr. Flower?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. So the motion passes. Regulation 44-20-417 7F Roman numeral I has been formally adopted. We've reached the conclusion of the entire rulemaking hearing. I'd like to thank the board members and everyone else who has participated in the process today. At this time, I'd like to call for a motion to close the hearing.
This is Ms. Behrens. I'll make a proposal to close this rulemaking hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Behrens. Do we have a second?
I'll second. It's Mr. Flower.
Thank you, Mr. Flower. All in favor, Ms. Baumgart?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Chandler?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. The time is 11:19 a.m. and I declare the rulemaking hearing closed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.